Hello and welcome to the inaugural Bottom Line Lexington podcast. We're going to be a little bit different than the show that you're used to listening to around here because in doing so, we're trying to pick winners out in the desert. We don't care about Cinderella stories. We don't care about third-team left guards of the offensive line. We don't care about the 3-4 scheme versus the 4-3 scheme. We worry about four things when it comes to college football here at the Bottom Line podcast. We worry about the coach. We worry about the quarterback. We worry about the line in the next game. We worry about who's going to win/cover the next game. That's it. That's all we need to know. We don't care about recruiting. We don't care about anything else. You can sit there and argue. I hear shows in this town all the time, and people sit there and talk about schemes and passing plays and air raid offenses, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Tell me who's going to win the next game. Give me tips that I can use to help me pick some winners. I can judge your coach. I can judge your quarterback. Don't tell me about all this other crap that means nothing. I remember I heard at the beginning of last season, there was a quarterback who used to play at Kentucky. He tried to convince me on some radio show that Kentucky should have scored 70 points in the first game of the season. I remember saying to myself, you've got to be flipping kidding me. You're going to reason with me why Kentucky should have scored 70 points in the first game. You've lost your mind, and you're a complete homer who's completely biased. On this show, we don't care if Kentucky wins or loses as long as we're on the right side out in Las Vegas. When Kentucky was 38-0 in basketball, and they played Wisconsin in the national semifinals, I got just as much sleep if they had won than if they had lost. It doesn't affect my life. And that's the way a true player watches games. Don't even have to watch games. True players in the world, they don't watch these games. It's all a business move to them. That's what it is to me. That's why I can see things better for what they are than the spin that the media and the spin that these administrators and coaches put on these stupid little games that we can make money off of. That's what we are here at the Bottom Line. And since we've been talking college football, let's talk UK Spring Game. Oh boy, the bastion of intelligence and athleticism. That is UK Spring Football. If you had to sit there and watch that game, I don't think you get a lot of things in life, and that goes for everybody. Alabama fans who pack 100,000 people, Ohio State packs 100,000 people, they're just looking for a party. They're looking for something to do in the middle of spring. The way I look at it, I take absolutely nothing from these games. Drew Barker is your quarterback, and as we said, there's only four things we look at in college football. One of them, who's your quarterback? Drew Barker is a 50% passer last year, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. In his limited time, he was worse than Patrick Towles. And Patrick Towles was 11th in the SEC in quarterback rating, and he was awful most of the year. So that should tell you how good Drew Barker is. Kentucky returns 14 starters. They have Drew Barker and Mark Stoops. Not exactly what I would call a recipe for a bowl game. I look at their schedule. I'll give UK their 3 cupcake games. I'll give you Southern Miss. I'll give you New Mexico State. I'll give you Austin Peay. Let's go Pete. But there's 5 games they have no shot of winning. They can't go to Florida and win. They can't win at Alabama. They can't beat Georgia. They can't win at Tennessee. And they can't win at Louisville. Oh, we can beat Louisville, blah, blah, blah. No, you can't. They have 18 returning starters. They have their quarterback coming back. They have a better coach. And I'm just sorry, they have better players. Forgive me. It's sacrilege to say anything bad about Kentucky when you compare it to Louisville. Louisville is simply the better program with the better coach, the better quarterback. They're better. They'll win that game double digits this year. So I'm looking at UK's schedule. I've got 3 wins for sure. I've got 5 losses for sure. And as usual, we come down to the toss-up games. South Carolina, Vandy, at Missouri, Mississippi State. If there's ever a year to get Mississippi State, this is it. They have 12 returning starters, and Dak Prescott is finally gone after dominating the SEC for 2 years. South Carolina has a new head coach and only 11 returning starters, but they also have 2 years of revenge. Vanderbilt brings back their quarterback and 15 returning starters, but Kentucky has a little revenge. Missouri, I don't know what to expect out of Missouri. They had some turmoil on campus last year. Their coach quit right at the end of the season. They only had 13 players coming back. I don't know what to expect from Missouri, but it's a road game, and Kentucky never wins on the road, ever, ever, ever. Okay, they won at South Carolina last year. Other than that, they lose at Vandy all the time. So don't sit there and tell me that Kentucky is a great road team. If they win one of these road games this year, I'll be shocked. And the only one they have a shot at is at Missouri. I was reading in the Herald Leader on Sunday, they were asking these experts, and believe me, in this town, calling anyone an expert is using the term way too loosely. And they said, is this a make or break season for Mark Stoops? And they all, in unison, said no. And I couldn't disagree more. They're all wrong. When you have a good coach, you know quickly. Nick Saban won national championships in his third year at LSU, in his third year at Alabama. Urban Meyer won national championships in his second year at Florida and in his second year at Ohio State. Heck, Gene Chizik won a national championship in his second year at Auburn. Yeah, he did have Cam Newton. It only cost him $180,000, but who cares? So for people to sit here and say Mark Stoops is not in trouble in his fourth year, come on. That's the most ridiculous thing ever. If he does not win 6 games, you've got to really be looking at a new coach. And especially if this team comes up and maybe gets down to 4 games, 3 games, he's gone. If this team only wins 4 games this year, Mark Stoops is gone. You can say all you want to, oh, he's been recruiting better. He's not winning games. At the end of the day, you have to win games. I don't care how well you're recruiting. People say, oh, well, Kentucky's got a top 40 recruiting class. Oh, yeah? Well, they're 13th in the SEC in recruiting. That's who you play. That's who you're going up against. Anybody can out-recruit the Sun Belt Conference. They're trying to out-recruit the SEC, and that's where they're losing. And they say, oh, we got big inroads in Ohio. You know what they have? Urban Meyer's rejects. And that kid from Lafayette, he's an Urban Meyer reject. Don't sit there and tell me otherwise. And that kid came out and said, oh, they treated me like a piece of meat. It was awful. Welcome to the real world, brother. That's how it is. And if you don't like it, get used to it. Sorry. That's the way the game is played. That's the way big-time college football is played. If you're not good enough to play for me, I don't care. That's the way the coaches are thinking. And I know people that know that kid, and they all say wonderful things about that kid, but I'm sorry. He's misguided. I hope he gets his act together at UK. We'll see how it goes. So the bottom line on UK football after the spring game, this might be their best chance at 6 wins. This also might be their best chance at 3 wins. With an unproven jerk of a quarterback, a rush defense who's 98th in the country last year, and a coach who's 4-20 in SEC games, I don't have a lot of faith. I think this is a 4-win team for Kentucky next year. I really do. And I hate to say it, because I know a lot of people around here are not going to agree with that. This is not going to be a good team this year. And it might get ugly by the end when Mark Stoops has to move on. Mid-April means baseball season. The Reds, 6-6. Their opponents have outscored them by 14 runs this year. So Pythagorean-wise, they should be 5-7. The good for the Reds so far, Zach Cozart coming back from an injury, hitting .483 after 12 games. That's second in the league. You can believe 2 weeks all you want. I'll believe the last 4 years and 1,975 at-bats, in which he hit .243 with an on-base percentage of .284 over those almost 2,000 at-bats. That's the bigger sample size. That's who he is as a player. Don't count on .483 all year. Heck, don't count on .283 all year. He'll be back below .250 where he should be before it's all said and done. Eugenio Suarez has lit the league up for the first week or so. By the way, there was a host in this town who literally on air last week called him Eugenio. That's just sorriness. And if that person is listening, or if you know who that person is, that's so sad that a host would go on air with so little knowledge, do so little homework, have so little preparation about their subject matter that they would misspell or they would mispronounce one of the best players on the team, one of the most important players on the team. That's just sorriness and laziness, and you should be ashamed of yourself, Dick Gabriel. Anyway, Suarez, after 2 weeks, .319 average, 4 home runs, 10 RBIs, but he has 5 errors, and he's been picked off twice. So the question is, how much does he have to hit to overcome his horrendous fielding and terrible base running? We'll find out as the season goes, but I think it's a little bit more than .319, 4, and 10. The one bright spot from the pitching standpoint has been Brandon Finnegan, who has 3 starts so far this year. He has 3 quality starts. He was part of the Johnny Cueto trade. Right now, he's their best starting pitcher. Homer Bailey is allegedly supposed to come back in May or June, but right now, Brandon Finnegan is the #1 starter on this team. And when you look around this team's pitching stats, it's tough to find anyone with any kind of potential going forward other than Brandon Finnegan. So we've gone over the good. Let's look at the bad. My personal favorite whipping boy, Devin Mesoraco, 32 at-bats, 143 average, 0 home runs, 1 RBI. OPS plus, he is dead last in the major leagues with 19. An average OPS plus is 100. That's how bad he is. Is it the injured hip? At this point, they say it's not an issue. Well, it's got to be something because he cannot hit anymore. He couldn't hit last year. He hasn't hit this year. That's 2 years in a row. He has done nothing. He was your opening day cleanup hitter in 2015. How the mighty have fallen. Speaking of things that fall, the man boobs man himself, J.J. Moobs Hoover, as we like to call him, he's been awful. He was anointed the closer before the season started, and of course, in true Moobs style, 5 games, 3 2/3 innings, 7 earned runs, 17.18 ERA. That's lousy. For those of you fantasy players out there like myself, J.J. Hoover was drafted in every league because people were like, ooh, cheap saves. I think I'll grab some J.J. Hoover. Well, you're regretting that decision immediately. He has no saves. It's a matter of time before Jumbo Diaz is your next closer, but at this point, anybody could close for this team. Only one starting pitcher has walked out to the mound for the 7th inning so far this year in 12 games. That's going to tax that bullpen. By the end of the year, these guys will be on fumes. Caleb Cotham. He's been the best bullpen guy so far, but that's not saying a whole lot. Dan Straley has also been really good, but he's going to be moved to the rotation. Bottom line on the Reds, they have started 6-6, but it's amazing they've started 6-6 because the last 9 games they've played have been against playoff teams from the division, the Cubs, the Cardinals, and the Pirates. That 3-0 opening week jaunt against the Phillies really helped their cause. But this is still a bad team with very little starting pitching, with no bullpen whatsoever. And if you don't think they're going to lose 90-plus games this year, you don't get statistics and you don't get sabermetrics. This is a bad team. They will lose 90-plus games this year. The NFL Draft is next week, one of my favorite nights of the year, and I don't really know why. I guess it's because everybody who watches that draft thinks that they could draft just as well, if not better, than the people who are doing the drafting. And we all snap judge everybody's decision. As fans, we all think we know it all, and it's amazing how we do. But the Rams gave up a lot for that number 1 pick to get a franchise quarterback. First of all, we don't even know if these quarterbacks are going to be any good. It's not like they're Andrew Luck or John Elway or Peyton Manning or whoever. But in this league, you cannot win unless you have a quarterback. That's just the way it is. If you don't have a quarterback, you will not win in the National Football League. If the Rams are able to do it, or any team is able to do it, you should go up and draft a surefire quarterback at number 1. The question is, I don't know if these guys are surefire quarterbacks. They're going to take that Jared Goff from California. Is he any better than anybody they could have stuck out there? Who knows? It's all a crapshoot, just like anything else in life, because we are humans evaluating humans. That's why you have to win 52.38% of the time out in Las Vegas to make a few jelly beans here and there. The Week 1 lines came out. Denver is a 3-point favorite over Carolina on opening night in Denver. I only have one question. Is there a limit on how much money I can put on Carolina in this game? Because believe me when I tell you, there's no way Carolina loses this game. Not just the revenge factor, which does exist in the NFL. Cam Newton will be the quarterback for Carolina. And as of today, Mark Sanchez will be the quarterback for Denver. Mark Sanchez came out today and said, it's my destiny to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Oh yeah, well what happened the last 8 years you've been in the league? Oh yeah, something called a butt fumble that was replayed on ESPN 3 gazillion times. Whatever, dude. You're not an NFL starting quarterback. This is your 3rd team. Nobody cares. Just go home. Collect your paycheck and go home. If I'm Ryan Fitzpatrick, late to the Jets, now a free agent, I walk to Denver and I give them a blank check. And I say to John Elway, hey, just pay me whatever you want. I'm the quarterback of your team. The fact that Denver didn't go get Fitzpatrick anyway, it's not like Fitzpatrick is some kind of game changer. It's not like he's some kind of the next Dan Marino or somebody. But he's better than putting out there Mark Sanchez and some rookie nobody's ever heard of. I mean, Brock Osweiler screwed himself over when he went to Houston. What kind of moron leaves a Super Bowl champion? That's just dumb. The buzz is Osweiler hated Denver because at the end, he thought he should have been starting over Peyton Manning. And let's just be honest, he should have been starting over Peyton Manning at the end and in the playoffs. But Denver couldn't do it. They couldn't bench Peyton Manning for the Super Bowl. They should have, though. They wound up winning the Super Bowl, but Osweiler was still the better quarterback. He will immediately regret going to Houston. I have a bad feeling. He's just as bad as Brian Hoyer was, as Ryan Mallett, as Matt Schaub, as any quarterback they've ever had. He is the exact same guy, and they're going to have the exact same results. Some other things I saw this weekend. On Sunday, there was the National Championship for women's bowling. Now, if you're going to spend a Sunday afternoon watching women's bowling, when it was 80 degrees outside and perfect, you need mental help. If there's any women out there listening to this, and your boyfriend or your husband watched that entire National Championship of women's bowling on ESPN yesterday, I have one bit of advice for you. Run for your life. Just run for the hills. You could do better. And you're putting him out of his misery because he's obviously just placating you just to keep you around. Because he'd rather be watching bowling than spending a Sunday afternoon with you on the most perfect Sunday afternoon I can remember. Yeah, and shout out to Stephen F. Austin, for those of you playing at home. I wonder what the line was on that one. But did they have to rent their shoes? Did they have to rent their shoes there at the bowling alley? Yeah, I need a size. What if they don't have the size 8.5? I haven't been bowling since the 80s because I refuse to put my feet in those bowling shoes that 1,000 other people have worn before me. Yeah, and I love how they magically put this little fungus spray in the shoes and all of a sudden they're immediately clean. How does that work? Yeah, I don't bowl. I would have to sterilize my entire wardrobe of socks and shoes after that. I can't do it. Sorry. God bless all you bowlers out there. It ain't working for me. And my favorite city, the ATL, the Hawks opened their playoff series against Boston on Saturday night and gave everyone these neon green shirts to support their team. Kind of like how some teams have the white out and the arena gives the fans a white t-shirt to wear during the game. Well, the Hawks said we're going to give everybody a neon t-shirt to wear during the game. But it didn't work because nobody from Atlanta roots for the Hawks. Everybody roots for other teams. It's the most transient city there is. So half the people that went to the Hawks playoff game were actually rooting for the other team. So you look up in the stands and you see everybody. It's like a smattering of these shirts. It's just humiliating to the franchise. It's humiliating to the city when you see half the fans wearing the t-shirts that they were given and half the fans just using it for whatever because they don't care, because they're not Hawks fans. If you're in the marketing department with Atlanta, you've got to know that this is going to backfire horribly. In fact, the NBA, they wouldn't, if you noticed the angle of the camera at midcourt when they were showing the actual game, they wouldn't go further than 1 or 2 rows up in the stands because they didn't want to embarrass the Hawks because nobody was wearing the shirts. Pathetic and typical Atlanta, if you ask me. I don't know if the Hawks will win this series or not, but they definitely lost the public relations game in this one. All right, let's get to the NBA, where we'll have some Mac Daddy Stogies at the end of the show, which everybody loves and everybody remembers. To this day, people still ask me, hey, you got the Mac Daddy Stogie for tonight? Let's move to the NBA. Very boring game 1 of every series so far. The only excitement was Stan Van Gundy whining his usual self, complaining and whining about LeBron James getting all the calls. Well, what do you expect? The league would much rather see LeBron James in the finals than your Ron Jeremy-looking fat belly Stan Van Gundy. Sorry to tell you something that you don't already know, but yes, the league wants Cleveland to win. The league wants its superstars and its super teams to advance. That's why the Spurs and the Warriors are going to get the calls, and the Pistons are not. Sorry to burst your bubble there, Stan Van. All right, let's get to the Mac Daddy Stogies. A long-time method of picking winners in the playoffs has been something called the Zig Zag Theory. And it was developed several years ago, and what it was, just whoever loses the first game, just go with the team that lost the next game and go back and forth until the series ends. More people started talking about it. It started getting some action in sports betting media, and all of a sudden now everybody does it. But then, shockingly enough, the odds makers out in Las Vegas started accounting for the zigzag theory, and all of a sudden those point spreads got a little tighter, and all of a sudden the people started losing by using it. So what I've done to where I can get over that 52.38% mark that we need to get to make money, I look for game 1 losers who not only lost the game straight up, but against the spread as well. And that happens maybe once or twice in a round, but after game one over the weekend in every series, you've got 5 examples of teams that lost both straight up and against the spread and are the underdog in game 2. I've got Dallas and Houston on Monday night, both double-digit dogs. I've got Memphis on Tuesday night, an 18.5-point dog as of this podcast on Monday afternoon. And Wednesday, Charlotte and Portland, both underdogs. That's 5 examples right there. I feel very good about at least 3 of those coming home, maybe not winners straight up, but covering that spread. You got 3 teams, double-digit dogs. I know they're playing Golden State and San Antonio, but this is the NBA. Sorry, double-digit spreads, you're not going to make a living taking teams giving up double-digit numbers. I don't care what league you're playing in. So that's it. Our Mac Daddy Stogies for early this week. Dallas, Houston, Memphis, Charlotte, and Portland all getting points. That does it for the inaugural edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to email us, bottomlinelex@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Bottom Line Lexington, and follow us on Twitter at BottomLineLex. Go to our website, bottomlinelexington.com, and make sure to follow our YouTube channel. We'll try to put up 2 or 3 of those every week. We're going to run kind of documentary series as well as a podcast on what's going on in everyday sports. So it's going to be very exciting. It's going to be something that I'm hoping to get a lot of social interaction from. But down the line, who knows where it'll go, especially when we start gambling every day. Until next time, for the Bottom Line Podcast, we'll see you.